bitch. This rap is all the same. Pulling at the spikes, I'm a matador. Break a motherfucker, give no fuck no more. 100 on the ground, I might just bring the force. Yeah, on little bashu. Bitch off course, I got no time. Come at the crime, come at the line. Suck the fire,
Arena, directed by Peter Manoogian. We follow this film from 1989. It gets a 5.2 in IMDb. It says a runtime of an hour and 56 minutes, but when I watched it, it came out to about an hour and 36 minutes, an hour and 40 minutes. I didn't watch the extended cut. I do want to thank MV Entertainment for sending me these screeners to watch and review for you guys. That way you can go check out the films at their website and see if they are worthy of your purchase. So let's talk about this film here. We have basically a gentleman, Steve Armstrong, who is on a different planet working at this restaurant. And on this planet, there is something going on called arena fighting. So let me put it to you like this. Arena fighting, imagine the UFC mixed with a UFC Ultimate Fighting Championship, Bloodsport mixed with aliens, characters that look like something out of Coneheads or Little Monsters. And I loved every second of that aspect. And Steve basically gets into a fight at this diner, and this guy named Shorty takes notice of it. And Shorty says, you got a lot of potential, but Steve gets fired at his job. Shorty says, come stay with me. In the tubes. Now, the tubes is kind of like a rundown area where people on the planet stay when they have nowhere else to go. So then somebody catches wind of this fight and approaches Steve and says, I know you want to get back to America. If you work for me, you can stay here and you can make all this money. But they've already pre-planned to send Steve back to the universe because he's in an alien planet and he wants to get back home to the U.S. So they steal money to get a one-way ticket for him to go back to the U.S. or just to get back to Earth, basically, planet Earth. And this other guy named Rogor, he has stakes in these fights, and Steve denies him. So Rogor has this character named Horn. And Horn is one of the guys that he represents. And Horn is like the baddest fighter that there is. He beat up a robot that kind of looked like R2-D2 in the opening fight called Spinner. And what's funny to me is that they touch gloves first, like a UFC fight. They actually box. There's 2 to 3 rounds. They have cornermen, just like regular fights. It's hysterically, but it's fun. And so Steve says, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and take this fight because I owe you the money. Because we stole it, because it was Rogor's money that was stolen. But I don't want to work for you, but I want to get home somehow. And he meets a couple girls along the way. One of them he's kind of falling for, and she kind of also promotes some of the fights. And so he starts to fight different monsters one by one. Steve, his first fight is with this creature they call Moth, who looks like a cross between like a giant... he looks like a dinosaur mixed with a glowworm. And that fight was interesting because they throw punches. And to beat this other character his first fight, Moth, he threw leg kicks as one of the things. And I'm just like, this is like what they do in the UFC, but he's fighting something that's huge and looks like a glowworm. So then he starts to get notoriety throughout this planet, and Shorty is like kind of promoting him a little bit. Shorty is hysterical. One of my favorite characters in the film. He has 4 hands. He's kind of like Goro, 4 arms, And then people threaten to cut off his fingers, and he's like, that's cool because I've got 4 arms. It's just funny. It's just hysterical to me. It's kind of like Total Recall, some of those weird looking characters. So Steve continues to fight, these different aliens and monsters till a big fight happens with Horn towards the end, and I'm not going to go over and spoil the ending, but this is one of the most unique sci-fi films I've seen, and I'm so glad I watched Arena. I highly recommend this. This is from 1989. Still got a lot of the 80s vibes, the 80s diner vibes in there. Just very fun to watch. I love the battles. I love the in-between rounds, the touching of the gloves, the techniques, a lot of practical effects. Many, if not any, it was all practical effects, hardly any CGI. Really well shot. I didn't catch the budget on this movie. I'll put it in the comments if I do find it. This was an absolute blast. If you guys have not seen Arena, if you like aliens, sci-fi, even if you just like fighter movies, and you get a little bit of nudity and appropriate lingerie usage, which is always a plus. But this movie was fantastic. I had an absolute blast with Arena. Very unknown about this film, and I'm glad I got a chance to check it out. Now, this came in a 5-pack with Arena, the Dungeon Master, Robot Jocks. I can't remember the other 5-pack, but oddly enough, the last film in it is Dolls. That's right, the horror film Dolls. And I'll give you the link to that pack as well at NVD if you want to check that out. Anyways, guys, check out Arena. Please do. It's free on Tubi, but you want to get the features and stuff like that come on this disc. You'll want to get the one that they have for sale at NVD's website. Catch up with you guys later. Let me know if you've seen Arena or if you like science fiction films, sci-fi, somewhat humoristic films. Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention. It's so funny because the way that Steve fights, he doesn't really have like gear or boxing gear or anything, so he has to wear kind of like just like underwear with like, if you watch Taekwondo or martial arts, you'll see that they use like sparring gear. Kind of reminded me of Coneheads, what Beldar Conehead had to fight in, like that diaper looking thing at the very end of the film. Anyway, it's just another little funny part of the film, but check Arena out. If you've seen it, let me know in the comments. Peace.
Welcome to the house on the A6 block. I'm just chilling on the porch in my chair I rock. I'm your host Jimmy Biggs with the ghoulish grip. The only light outside is the full moon lit. Welcome to a world mixed with evil and good. If you didn't plan on staying, then you misunderstood. This ain't a nightmare, the figment of imagination. Step aside and the house will awaken. Skeleton.